Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation over and over in your head, just cringing at something you said? Or maybe you've dodged a party because the very idea of making small talk felt exhausting. Well, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive deep into How to Be Yourself by Dr. Ellen Hendriksen. She's a clinical psychologist who has basically written a survival guide for anyone who is just tired of being held back by that fear of what other people think.
I mean, just imagine it for a second. What if you could walk into a room or start a conversation or give a big presentation without that awful pit in your stomach? What if the real you, the one that's been hiding behind this curtain of anxiety, could finally take center stage? Well, that's the core promise of this entire book. All right, so to figure out how to fix this, we've got to understand what we're actually dealing with. So, what exactly is social anxiety? Well, it's this feeling that can be completely paralyzing. It's also way more common than we like to admit, and honestly, it's probably not what you think it is. Okay, this is such a critical distinction. Shyness is more of a preference. It's enjoying a quiet night in with a good book. But social anxiety? That's a whole different beast. It isn't a preference, it is pure fear. It's this deep down belief that you're being judged, that you're going to be found out as not good enough, and that the end result is going to be just completely humiliating. This quote actually comes from a man in the book named Jim, and he's talking about his childhood. Before he could even step outside to play, his mom would literally inspect him, totally consumed by this worry about what the neighbors would think. It's just such a powerful story of how this fear of judgment isn't something we're born with. So often, it's something we learn. So when you look at the roots of it, you see these four things that basically create a perfect storm. First, there's our evolutionary wiring. For our ancestors, belonging to the tribe was survival. Getting kicked out was a death sentence, so of course we're wired to care what people think. Then, you layer on childhood lessons, like Jim's, that can crank that normal concern up to an 11. Then what do? We start avoiding the scary situations, which feels good for a second, but it just tells our brain, see, that was dangerous. And the whole time, you've got this harsh inner critic just narrating the whole thing, predicting disaster at every turn. And all of that leads us to this really painful, tricky paradox. The very things we do to try and protect ourselves from being judged, the things that feel like they're helping us get through it, they often become the bars of our own prison. They're exactly what keeps us stuck. Dr. Hendriksen uses this incredible metaphor to explain the trap. She says to imagine a life preserver that, instead of saving you from drowning, is actually holding you underwater. That's exactly what she calls safety behaviors. In the moment, they feel like they're saving you, but they're also preventing you from ever learning that you can actually swim just fine on your own. So on one side, you have all this exhausting work that anxiety makes us do, endlessly rehearsing what we're going to say, avoiding eye contact, just hiding behind our phones. But on the other side, you see what true, authentic confidence looks like. And notice, it's not about being loud or the life of the party. It's quiet, it's grounded, it's just present. It's about being willing to be imperfect, and it's built by actually doing things, not by putting on some flawless performance. So here's the bottom line on this. Every single time you avoid something you're scared of, you are robbing yourself of new data. You never get the chance to learn that the absolute catastrophe you imagined, well, it didn't happen. And without that real-world evidence, you can't build the confidence that only comes from knowing, hey, I actually handled that. But here is the really good news. This is not a life sentence. The book is packed with practical, science-backed tools that help you dismantle this prison, brick by brick. And the goal here isn't to get rid of fear entirely, it's to completely change your relationship with it. Okay, this next idea is an absolute game changer. See, most of us have it completely backwards. We wait until we feel confident to do the scary thing. But the book argues that confidence is the result of taking action. It's the reward you get afterwards, not the ticket you need to get in. You have to get on the wobbly bike before you feel steady. You literally build confidence by doing things while you are still terrified. So, how do we start? Dr. Hendriksen boils it down to two incredibly powerful steps for dealing with that inner critic. And they sound simple, but believe me, they are transformational. First, you replace the critic's crazy, harsh thoughts with realistic questions. And second, you embrace yourself with the same kind of compassion you would give to a good friend. So here's how you actually put replace into practice. The next time your inner critic starts screaming, you're going to make a total fool of yourself. Don't argue with it. Instead, just get curious. Ask it some questions like, okay, how bad would that really be? Or, honestly, what are the odds of that actually happening? And maybe, and if the worst did happen, how would I cope? When you start shining a light on the fear like this, you almost always find that the monster is made of shadows.
And that really gets to the absolute heart of all this. This whole journey isn't about becoming fearless. That's a myth. It's about becoming brave. And true bravery, well, that's not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to take action even when fear is right there with you. So, what does this all actually look like in real life? The goal isn't to force yourself into some new super extroverted personality. It's way more about carefully pruning away all those layers of fear that have been hiding the person you already are. It's kind of like how pruning an apple tree lets the sunlight in so the fruit can finally grow. Let's go back to Jim, the guy whose mom was so worried about the neighbors. For decades, his life was run by avoidance. He once hid behind a bush just to avoid a girl he liked. At 52, he was pretty isolated, but then he took one small, unbelievably terrifying step, a ballroom dance lesson. And he kept showing up. And just look where it led him. He found a community, he found joy, and then he got ready to face his ultimate fear, performing in public. So on the night of the performance, backstage, his heart was just pounding. That old, familiar panic was there. But then, as he stepped out onto the dance floor, something incredible shifted. He wasn't overthinking anymore, he was just doing it. And he realized that feeling, it wasn't just panic anymore. It had actually morphed into excitement. But here's the absolute best part. A few days later, he gets the official feedback from the judge. And at the very top of the page, in big capital letters, it says, "Very relaxed." Can you believe it? This just shows that huge, massive gap between how we feel inside and how people actually see us. Jim was sure he was a total mess, but the world saw something completely different. It proves we think our anxiety is this giant spotlight on us, when most of the time, nobody else even sees the light is on. And here's the thing. Jim is still Jim. He's thoughtful, he's kind, he's a relatively quiet guy. He didn't become a different person. The only thing that changed was the role fear was allowed to play in his life. He took the keys back from fear and put himself back in the driver's seat. And that's really the final empowering message of this whole book. The goal isn't to become someone new. It's to uncover the confidence and the warmth and the strength that are already inside you, just buried under years and years of fear and avoidance. You already have everything you need. It's just a matter of going out there and finding it.